I'm going to do little dances, by the way, when the musical interludes are going to be.
Sounds great.
Hello and welcome to In the Pocket, the bass guitar podcast where we get the lowdown on the low end. My name's Jonny, a totally average bass player, and each week I'm joined by a different co-host to talk all about that bass. This week I'm very lucky to be joined by multi-talented, not just bass player, but all round, but mainly considers himself a bass player, which I love to hear, of course. And that is the bass player for 6 Feet Deeper and Structural Disorder, bass teacher, session player, and of course, YouTuber. It's Erik Arko.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. What an introduction.
My man, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I have the week off. It's called like sportlov here in Sweden. So it's like a week off from school for all the kids, so they can go skiing and stuff. So that's neat. So I have this week off, and my daughter has the week off from preschool as well. And my wife is working, but she can do some stuff remote. So that's nice. So it's good.
Oh.
It's good.
It's a good week then. Oh, amazing. Well, I hope that this is a great way to start the week, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I can see that you've got viewers at home won't be able to see this, but I can see there's a beautiful bass in Erik's hands right now. Is that the Yamaha?
Yeah, this is the Yamaha. The Yamaha Attitude Limited 3. It kind of dawned on me when I saw your Sire bass that they kind of look the same. They have Tort, Pickguard, and it's the Sonic Blue, and yours more like not Sherwood green, but surf green or whatever. But they kind of are reminiscent.
It's got the same vibe. It's got the same vibe,
really.
And that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, and I've done some custom mods to it, if you will. So I have this the ashtray here, which pops right off because
Whoa!
So you get the look of it like when you're on stage, and it's like, oh, you got the ashtray. That's amazing. But comes right off using I don't know what it's called. It's Velcro, but it's plastic. I don't know what it's called. Duolock, it's called. So
that's an incredible idea and something that I'd never even entered my mind before.
No,
wow.
I mean, I'm too scared and too lazy and too shitty of a craftsman to dare to drill into my instrument. So I thought, okay, how can I apply this without ruining the instrument? Drilling a hole throughout the entire body and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, it works. And I got the new Relentless P pickup here as well. I need to do a video on these. I haven't had the time. They're really great. If you get the chance, get a pair, because I mean, I don't know if you can see, but they are rounded, so they feel amazing neath your fingers.
Absolutely, and they look like they could reflect any ray of light that goes onto them. They're like mirrored, so you're just blinding everyone on stage.
You can get them in gold, black, and like these chrome. So,
wow, that looks so cool. So each week we like to start off by asking our guests just 3 questions to introduce to the audience if they don't know who it is. Who is this? So the first off, we're going to start with the 3 words that you, Erik, would use to describe your bass playing.
Yeah, I gave this a lot of thought, and let's see, 3 words: aggressive, distorted, tasteless.
I was like, yes, nice. Yes, nice. Oh no, tasteless. Go into tasteless. Why that?
I think it comes from when I was growing up and learning how to play bass. My uncle was he had. We'll get to that in a minute, but he had a bass around. That was the instrument I was learning on, and I always wanted to crank the treble and get more of a Steve Harris and that kind of tone. And he was like, "It sounds like a guitar. Why are you playing like that?" And I always enjoyed doing noodly stuff like that. So it's kind of a joke, I play tasteless licks because if I say that I enjoy them, people probably think oh, he's full of himself. But if I say, oh, it's just some tasteless licks, they're like, yeah, it's tasteless. Sounds like, yeah. I don't
I
know.
think you'd be like, "Yeah, just I've got no taste. I don't like. I think I'm
No.
terrible."
Yep.
That you're gonna say. Well, I like that explanation that you're like, I know this noodling. Like, I just like
Yeah.
it, and that's
Yeah.
fine."
It's part of
Incredible.
my style, I guess. And it's like, yeah, I'll never be. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's probably my undiagnosed ADHD that kicks in every time I pick up an instrument. It's like, I want to do this. Can you do that on a bass? Like, no, you
Hey,
should just
there's
play like that.
yeah,
Well, I want to do that. No, I can't do that. Okay.
there's no rules. There's
No,
no
there are no
rules, and
rules.
there shouldn't be. So you've got that bass in your hands. What is your number one bass?
It's this one, all hands down. Every time when I pick up a different bass, I always find when I come back to this, like, yeah, this is home. This is the bass that I enjoy the most to play. It's like it has become part of my DNA in a way,
Mm,
I guess. I mean, it's a P bass, like down and all. When you like get down to the details, you got the P pickup and everything. So it's a P bass. It's what I learned how to play on and all of that. But yeah, this Yamaha bass is my number one. I've used it on. I played with like choirs and done like jazz stuff. Like that was totally wrong. But yeah, I done like jazz stuff, I done metal stuff, I done everything on this bass, and it just works. It
yeah, man. Like
feels great.
a P bass, as simple as it is, just
Yeah,
works with
it
like
just works.
anything you throw at it. It's so good. Um, and how long have you had that one?
I've had this for 6 years. I got this from my wife when we got married. Essentially, I kind of nagged her into like giving it to me, but yeah, she's the one who in the end gave it to me. So it's pretty much a wedding gift from her. I guess
Ah,
you could
so
say.
so it has to stay with you forever
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you can't never get rid of it.
No, I can never get rid of it, and I'll probably never even get the idea of it because it just feels like home when I pick it up.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Like, I feel like I'm still waiting for that feeling sometimes when I pick up a bass and I'm like, this feels great. But then sometimes I'll be like, well, 2 months later, I'll be like, well, no, this looks great. I don't want that anymore.
Yeah,
So I'm in that kind of realm at the minute where I'm like, not sure what's my number one. At the minute, it's I'm with these sires, but I'm sure we'll talk about that more later.
yeah,
But a third question, and
yeah.
you've kind of touched on it a little bit already. Why did you pick up the bass?
Well, when I was growing up, we lived. My parents they had an apartment here in Stockholm, and grew up north in a place called Dalekarle, in a village called Garsos, which has like 880 people living there, like permanently. So it's a very small village, and I grew up there, and we lived at my uncle's house, and he lived with us here in Stockholm, and he and my mom used to go back and forth, like I don't know what it's called, like commuting essentially every week. Um, so we grew up in his house, and he was like a second father and grandfather to me. And he had a bass. He was a bass player. He played. I've got it here, and that bass was always around, in the house. And then when I started fifth grade, a friend of mine was like, "We're gonna start a Guns N' Roses tribute band." Like, great. Can I? Because I wasn't like one of the cool kids, and he was. And I wanted to be a part of this, just be a cool kid. And he was supposed to be like the Axl Bros, like play piano and sing, and another cool guy was going to be Slash. So I was like, I can be the bass player. I'm like, yeah, sure. Nobody wants to be the bass player, of course. Why should you be the bass player? I've got a bass. Oh, that's more than anyone else has.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
so I got the gig. And then nothing happened. We never rehearsed. He bought like a like official chords and sheet music book for like the major hits, which were all,
Yeah.
yeah, terribly transcribed and all that. And that was the end of that. But my dad signed me up for bass lessons, which took like a year to get started because like the waiting line was so long. Here in Sweden, we have something called Kulturskolan, which is something you can apply for, and it costs a very reasonable sum of money every year, and you get private lessons from a teacher. and you get to play like in an ensemble and all of that good stuff. So he signed me up, and a year later, I got a call like, "Hey, you wanna start your bass lessons?" So I started to take lessons, and I played 30 minutes every week during my lesson, and that was that. Because I mean, I was more into like drawing and doing comics and stuff like that. And then by I think it was 8th grade, my cousin gave me a beat up old bass, an Aria Pro 2, which I painted black. And I got so into like having my own instrument, because this bass, I'll pick it up in a few seconds, that I had this old Fender. I mean, it was my uncle's. He had flats on it, and I wanted to play like flea stuff, because Red Chili Peppers had just come out with Californication at the time. So I wanted to do like the slap, and you can't do that on like old dead flat wounds. It doesn't sound right when you're
No.
like starting out. So I got that bass, and I just got hooked, and then I discovered, Iron Maiden, and started to play stuff like that. And yeah, that was it. No more comics for me.
You're like, step aside, comic books, bass is here.
Yep, bass is here.
Incredible. Well, yeah, that sounds like a very natural journey into, the bass, and it being the people around you that brought you into it, which I love.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now our audience has got to know you a little bit more. Let's jump in to our first question. Okay, so our first question comes from. Oh, by the way, everyone, if you want to submit questions, head to @JonnyDibble on Instagram. That's me, and just have a look out for my Instagram stories, where I put up a little poll where you can submit your questions. So this one has come from username the Crayon Demo, who has asked. Yeah, I don't. Maybe they're demonstrating some crayons. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear the
I mean, there's a
explanation.
market for that, I guess.
Well, it's just comic books, isn't it? Like you
Yeah.
said, just
Yeah.
getting some crayons, add a little squiggle. I'm so sorry, the crayon demo. Um, First question says, do you prefer a bass with or without a pick guard? Now, first off, pick guard or scratch plate? That is a debate that will go on forever, I think. I mean, is there a difference? I don't know. I don't even have one that I prefer to say. I tend to flip flop between the two.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I had somebody comment once, being like, actually, it's a scratch plate," and I'm like, "All right, all right, put your nose
Yeah.
away. It's fine." Um, but yeah, so prefer them with or without. For me, I think it really depends, and I'm a bit of a sucker for traditional looks when it comes to basses. Like I love like late 50s aesthetics on basses, like gold anodized scratch plates and things like that. So
Yeah.
automatically, I am a sucker for it because Fender, Music Man, they've all got them, and all the copies there have got them. However, so it's more like the modern kind of looking basses that don't have them. But I think it all comes down to the wood grain and the actual
Yeah.
burst or the color of the bass, because it's really got to. I remember seeing a Sterling, one of the newer ones. It's like a quilted maple top, and it looks insane. Like it's so fiery and it jumps out at you, and most of it's covered up with the scratch plate. And I was
Yeah.
like, "What? Why?" And so I started like looking for pictures of it without it. I started trying to like Photoshop a version without it, because I was like, "I'm going to get this, and I'm going to put a clear one on there, or take it off completely, because it's what a waste." I thought
Yeah.
of this beautiful body. So I think, yeah, it depends on that for me. Where do you stand with it?
I'm pretty much like exactly the same. I have a Dingwall combustion, which has a beautiful black bursts, in which you can see like the wood grain through. I tried it without the pickguard, and it looked great. But I guess I'm a traditionalist as well. Like I prefer like the look of a pickguard. I say pickguard, for some reason, except on like a sunburst jazz. There, I kind of
Mm.
want like, without the pickguards to get that Yako look. I really dig that look on those basses. But like pretty much all of my basses are P basses, and you need the pickguard because that's where like the the innards are, so to speak, like
Yeah,
the guts. You don't want to
I'm gonna
spill the
be
guts
like,
all over the.
I'm gonna be like, no, I don't like pick guards at all. I'm not gonna have one on there. But then all your knobs are like, woo, flying all over the place.
Yeah.
Nobody wants knobs flying all over the
No,
place.
no, no, no.
And
Don't
some
have to
people
laugh
might. I
at.
don't. Who cares? Um, incredible. So yeah, basically, it depends on the bass. Like, I don't want to cover up something beautiful with something that isn't really functioning. But at the same time, if it's got a function and it's there, great.
Yeah.
Again, with the P bass, if they built one that had all the innards, it didn't rely on a pick guard, I still think it would look a bit weird, especially with like the position of the
Yeah,
knobs.
aren't there like the Jackson ones? Like there's some like Jackson P
Yes.
style that have like it's just like the wood grain or like a one solid color. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it looks all right, but kind of want that. It's been there forever, man.
Yeah, exactly. Don't change a classic. And
No.
also, I feel like a pickguard is a really simple mod that can
Yeah.
like totally change a bass, and I love that so much.
I mean, I
Like
did
with
it to this base. I mean, it doesn't have the tortoise. It has a white pearl originally.
yes, of course it does.
So I mean, like you said, it's such an easy mod to give your base like more character
Mm.
or like give it your own grow your own mustache on it, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. You can grow a beard on there, and it
Yeah,
totally changes it.
yeah.
100%. And so for me, I guess I'm leaning more towards I prefer having a pick guard, but if it's got a beautiful body on there, I don't want to be covering it up.
You want to cover up that beautiful body of yours, Sean?
No,
No.
baby, let me see it. Oh, that sounded awful.
Yeah.
With that, let's move on to our next segment. So now it is time for the news, the base news of the week. Now it's been a bit of a light week for news. I think last week was very heavy, or 2 weeks ago was very heavy. Lots of news going on. This week I've only got 2 items with me, and I made the mistake of not checking before I started recording. But there might be something else. But apologies if I've missed anything. First off, I want to talk about Origin Effects. Now they have brought out 2 new pedals. Have you seen these at all, Eric?
Yes, I saw them, and they have matching compressors, like the 76, the Cali 76, like the tiny
Yes.
ones to go
Yeah,
with them.
because I thought originally when I saw them, I was like, oh, they've just brought out a new preamp, and they're just 2 different colors, but they're not. They're 2 different like amp models essentially in
Yeah.
these preamps, and I'm assuming those compressors are just the colors to match it.
Yeah, I understood so. That like if you got the blue one, you want the blue compressor because it looks better.
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah,
like why not match the underwear with
yeah,
socks and
exactly.
yeah,
If the curtains match the drips,
yeah, as they
match it all
say.
together. So with these, you've got, like I said, we've got 2 preamps in here. We've got the Bass Rig Super Vintage, which is the blue one, and that is based on the, of course, iconic Ampeg SVT rig, and then the black one, which is based on, I keep saying based. I hate using the word based when we're talking about basses. It makes it very confusing. The bass is based. The black one is based on the Fender Showman and Bassman amplifiers. So 2 very iconic and I think quite different sounding amps that are both up there for me. Like, I'm a big fan of these.
Yeah,
I think they're great. Um, of course, that's why they're so iconic. The controls on there are pretty simple. We've got an output, a blend for whether you're going to the DI or the amp, a drive, bass, middle, treble, and then we've got a couple of switches in between. I'm just refreshing my memory by looking at a
yeah.
picture. Oh,
I'm
we've
gonna
got
take a
a,
picture as well.
a bright switch, a fat switch, a tweed and a black one by the looks of it, and whether you want your DI cab sim on there as well. So these are very intelligent pedals by the sounds of it, with what you can do. Have it going straight to front of a house, and that your
Yeah,
entire rig. Because it has got a cab sim built in, which I think is really good for them to be like, yes, it's got it in here. Because sometimes, like Tech 21, it's always like, I'm plugging my Sans amp in. Does this have a bit of cab sim in it to center front of house? Like, that's what you want from a DI pedal,
Yeah,
really. You want that
totally.
all rig all in one. So it's really cool that these absolutely definitely have that, and you can kind of choose whether to have that engaged or not. It's an Origin Effects pedal. It's gonna be expensive.
Yeah, I think
So
around like what is it? Yeah, 500 pounds, something like that. 500 euros. It was when I checked last time. However,
yeah,
you never know with these
that's it.
thingies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen the cheapest I've seen is like £3
Oh
here, which you know sounds a bit less, but
no, yeah,
it's
you're
expensive.
the quid's better than the euro.
Oh,
I think you're higher. I mean, it's like monetarily worth more, or how you say it. Sorry,
yeah, yeah.
forgive
sounds
me.
like
I'm Swedish.
sounds like the pound's doing all right at the minute, which is
Yeah,
weird for
yeah.
once. So yeah, I would love to hear these. Now, out of the two, which of those would you prefer to have? The
Uh,
SVT or the like Fender?
oh God. I mean, last like before Christmas, I got down with hand, foot, and mouth disease, and I binged Get Back.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's one of the diseases you get when you have a 2-year-old at preschool here in Sweden. It wasn't funny. However, I got to stay home and watch TV, so that was good. And when I saw Paul McCartney play the bass man, I was like, "Yeah, there's the tone." So I've been like gigging out over basemans lately. Neural DSP released the bassman for the Quad Cortex recently as well, uh, which just it sounds just like you wanted to. And yeah, I mean, I probably would have gone with that. Then again, like the SVT, I mean, it's the SVT. I would probably go with both. Now that I think about it, because I have two outputs on my bass, so I could run the neck pickup. Oh, sorry about that. Let's do it again. I could run neck pickup through the bassman, and then the P pickup through the SVT, and
This guy.
there you go. Yeah,
This guy.
I mean,
That would
why
be
stop at
insane.
one?
Exactly. Why more is better. That's the words that I live by. That's
Yeah,
why I have
more
so
is
many
more.
guitars.
Yeah,
Um, Incredible. Yeah. And that's a bit of a contention point that I have with this pedal. I think a little bit is that I wish that you could have both in one. Like I wish that there was a
yeah,
switch that you could go between the two and have two amps in there. That is what would make me buy this pedal, I think, honestly. I think I would be really interested.
yeah,
Now, of course, they have got different controls on there. So, like the blue one, which is on the SVT, yes, get confused, has like the ultra high and low
yeah,
switch on it. So they do have different things on there. But I am an absolute sucker for a basement. Like, and that came on like probably a year ago, I think. I just really got into that Fender tube amp
yeah.
sound, and it caused me to buy my full Fender rig that I've got now.
Oh yeah,
Not a basement. I'll say it
yeah.
now. It
No,
is a
but still.
yeah, it's a full rumble rig, which
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
great.
I really want a basement. I can't afford it, so I'll just
No,
get the rumble, and it's great. Don't get me wrong, but
no, I've heard so much great stuff about the Rumbles actually, like
mm,
so much. So
it's
I need to.
affordable, it's light, it's pretty reliable, like, hasn't let me down, so
Is
yeah.
it Class D or is it?
Ye It's completely solid state,
Yeah,
so yes.
it's like
Um,
yeah,
so there's no valves in there, anything to go wrong, which, I love the valvey tones of these amps. I'm probably more well known for using, like, that SVT kind of sound. It probably naturally, in my playing style, playing aggressively, fits
yeah,
more with that, and, like, kind of a bit more of a scooped sound, which you kind of get a bit more from the Ampeg stuff. Uh, so I'm torn. That's why I'd like both
yeah.
in one, because 'cause I'd love to try them both. So yeah, Origin Effects, you've bloody done me again. I'm gonna have to flipping buy both, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine having one with both of them in it, and you have like MIDI controls you can switch between the two, and you can switch. Yeah, that would be
I mean,
Origin Effect. Yeah,
that
if you're
sounds
listening,
just like the Quad Cortex.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it kind of does. Uh, However, one thing that I saw about these is that they don't have an IR loader. They have like the cab sim feature,
Mm.
which is like I'm a bit torn about that, to be honest with you, because I really enjoy like the digital aspect of having a cab sim, and like two notes and whatnot, just having like an SD card and just plugging it in and having your favorite IRs. I mean, I don't know if it's a missed opportunity for them or if they are smart going completely analog. I don't know. It's
Yeah, I think it's now that the market is changing so much, and you're, with IRs and being able to custom load in your own ones. Yeah, sure,
yeah,
be able to have their pre-made ones on there, and I bet loads of people would just use that. But I don't know how much more it would have been for them to add that feature in,
no,
and how much more appealing that would be, because it would be. And if you're going to spend a lot of money on a preamp pedal that is going to be your
yeah,
whole rig, you kind of want that option a bit more, I think, rather
exactly.
than just be limited, which, kind of begs the question of, well, which is actually more worth it in the long run, in monetary? Is it getting a pedal like this, or is it spending a bit more money now, but getting more for my money out of like a big, modeler? But we'll hold
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah,
hold that
yeah,
discussion.
hold your horses,
As it is
Dibble.
now, because we're getting into the big base debate already. Spoilers.
Yeah.
I'll move on. Oops, I've knocked my water
Oh,
over. Oh my gosh! Caught live on camera. I just knocked my water all over my
oh,
dark glass pedal.
ugh.
That's not good. Okay, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. Is
It's
it powered
mostly
on? Or,
missed.
yeah, is it powered on or is it bypassed or like
It's
not
it's
plugged?
completely unplugged. The board is
Oh yeah,
not
then
on. So
that it's fine. Just put some rice on it.
I just I put the whole board in some rice, and I'm sure it'll be
Yeah.
fine. Okay, moving on to the next bit of news, which is a quick one, really, because I've not looked too much into it. I've not got an experience with it. But I kind of do, but I don't, because it is Line 6. They've brought out a new update for the Helix.
Yeah.
So I say I've got no experience. I do, because I've got the HX Stomp, but I've not actually been able to update mine yet
Oh,
to try these all out. Now you're saying that. Have you got a Helix or something like that?
yeah. I've got the Helix LT and an HX Stomp, and I got Helix Native as well.
Holy moly! This
So
guy,
I've been yeah I've been doing Helix stuff for a bunch of years actually. Um,
Joe, he's got it all. Have you
I
tried this
gotta
new update?
I haven't had the time.
Mm.
But a good friend of mine, John Willis, who is a bass wizard in the Helix world, he did like a pretty cool comparison, very cool comparison between the Optocomp in the HX Stomp or Helix and the actual unit,
Mm.
uh, which is a
Cool.
compressor that I'm using right now. It's a really cool compressor, really straightforward. Like if you want a three knob, it's compression, release, and output level. That's all it is, and it's glorious. So yeah. Anyways, I digest. I haven't had the time to try out the update. However, I will probably do soon enough. Hopefully.
Yeah, man. Like I've just got back from holiday, so I was like, can't wait to update it when I get home. I still haven't done that yet. But yeah, it looks like we've got some more like Ampeg pedals in there as well, like say the
Yeah.
Octocomp, and an Ampeg chorus as well, and
Yeah.
lots of
That's great.
lots of bass focus effects, which is great, and loads of synths. I am only just getting back into synths now, and so this is really exciting for me. I can't wait to try some of these out. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all of them now because we'll be here all bloody day.
Yeah.
But there's a new bass distortion on there as well, which there's only a handful on there already, or
Yeah.
at least on the HX Stomp available to it. So yeah, I can't wait to try these out, and probably next week. Who knows? I might give you a little taste of
Yeah.
what these sound like. So yeah, watch this space. Okay, and with that, let's move
Hmm.
on to our next
Oh.
question. Our next question comes from simons.jpg on Instagram. I'm guessing he's just some kind of image.
Is it
Um,
an NFT probably?
oh my god, he's
The
an
living
NF.
NFT.
Send him your money now, and you'll own him. Sorry, Simon. Um, this one says, "What is your opinion on short scales?" Ooh. Now,
Oof.
as we know, like your standard scale length is your 34-inch. Short scales, they're a cute little 30-inch, cute little neck that they've got on them, and medium scale being 32-inch. So 30-inch basses have been huge over the last couple of years, absolutely huge. The market it's just exploded with them. Some well-known models will be your Fender Mustangs, and all sorts of short scales that have exploded onto the market. I think one of the most popular has been probably the Squire Mustang, and maybe the Gretsch Junior Jet has probably been
Yeah.
a really popular one, and that's the one that I've got.
Oh.
So for me, I used to not really get the short scale thing. I used to be like, why would you want that? I don't really enjoy the tone advantages that you get from a short scale. Or, well, I saw it as tone disadvantages because I was like, it just doesn't sound as full to me, sometimes it sounds a little bit out of tune to me. I used to think they've certainly got their own sound. I think they're a bit like tubbier sounding. I think
Yeah.
a bit more mid-rangey. I think, and yeah, I never really got it until I played one. And I played one that wasn't traditionally like a traditional kind of pickup setup. I've got the Gretsch, which is two mini humbuckers, which
Oh.
I think really, really suits the sound. Completely passive, really, really simple setup in there. They're cheap as chips, and my God, what a bass! There's just this feeling you get from short scales that like slightly lower string tension that inspires you to play completely differently than you would on a long scale instrument. It's really hard to explain, where you just find yourself doing more bends, and like even just the way that your fingers have to
Yeah.
adjust. I've got these big sausages on my hands from playing bass all these years, and so having to then adjust to a smaller one
Yeah.
when playing bass lines, because I can jump onto a guitar and play, that's fine. But when you're playing bass lines on something that's a bit smaller, it starts to feel a bit differently, and I think that inspires you to play differently, which is what that's why I want a short scale in my collection, because I was thinking about this last night. I was sat on my sofa just like noodling, and I was like half tempting to sell this bass because I was like, oh, I don't play it as much as I should and all this. I need to make room and get some money to buy some more stuff. And then I was playing it and I just had such a blast. And I was like, I'm not getting rid of this thing. This is so much fun. And I was coming up with came up with like 10 different bass lines whilst I was sat there. And
Yeah.
so I think they're great. I think that if you can find one and have a good time on it, then I think you should try it out. That
Yeah.
was a very
Totally agree.
long-winded answer from
Yeah. Well,
me. What's your experience with short scales?
well, you're taking all the love for them now, so I can't possibly put out any more love for short scales now. Well, anyways, at my old job, we used to have, well, they still have a Harley Benton like Beatles bass, which was pretty decent actually. And I used to play that a lot when I was teaching the kids how to play drums. I used to play along on that one. It was really fun, and like you said, you play differently on a short scale. I find, like it's kind of it's the distances are shorter, so you kind of I kind of tend to overplay whatever I play on, but I kind of overplayed a bit more on those. Uh, but then like you said, the sustain is like is at least on that one it was a bit like thumpier. So I like you totally get why Paul McCartney played so busy on like the early Beatles stuff, because like
Mm.
a proper Hofner doesn't have that much sustain. It's like that's him holding out the note. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they are fun. I should probably get one someday when I have the room and time and all that good stuff that you need. Um,
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Like, and that's a prime example of where a bass sometimes can form the playing and the player. Being well
yeah,
known for or having to compensate for a bass can actually
yeah,
inspire
exactly.
you to do different things. And that's say compensate. That normally sounds like a bad thing, but it's not, because it can actually just
No,
make you inspire
yeah, you
you
need
to
to
be
adapt.
creative.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You adapt due to like the circumstances that you find yourself within. Like if you haven't got like a low B, okay, how can you play the notes that you need to play on a certain like that? That's one example. Like you have to adapt to the circumstances, and like those basses, they don't have a lot of sustain, and you know Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
No, makes complete sense. That being said, I don't think a short scale will replace a long scale for me.
No.
Like, I will always like if I'm going to have a short scale, I don't want two. Like, I don't have any need for it. It's that
No.
serves its purpose for me. It's a short scale and it's got this kind of sound and feel. I'm not going
Yeah.
to have 5 short scales and a one long scale on my wall.
Uh,
It just doesn't make sense to me.
no.
And overall, I prefer for my playing style, I prefer a full length bass. And I just think the sound suits me personally a bit better. So I'm always going to favor that. But I'm pretty sure that's common across everybody, unless
Yeah.
you're Paul McCartney, of course.
Yeah. Or like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it has its tone, it has its place, and it's a lot of fun. Um, I wouldn't play it in like a tech death metal setting, although it certainly would be fun and look pretty hilarious. But I mean, it has its place and it does that thing great. Um, yeah. So I mean, there's a time and place for everything, even tasteless licks, kids. Remember
Exactly.
that.
Get your tasteless licks on your short scale bass right here.
For sale now, limited time only.
Let's move on to our next segment. So, this segment, you know what it is. It's my favorite one of the podcast because it's that tone you won't. So, each week I ask our guests to bring along a little tone sample of theirs that they consider to be their signature sound or something that they're just enjoying at the moment. So, leading up to this, Eric sent me a flipping fantastic bit of audio that we're going to listen to now, and then we're going to break it all down. Oh my god, I don't know where to start with this. It's blown me flipping socks off. I've
Oh,
seen like your rig and your setup, and I held behind you now. I can see all the pedals that you've got there. I can see the samurai sword that's on the shelf
yeah.
behind you. I'm hoping that sword is somehow involved in this cutting edge tone you've got here.
Oh, yeah,
Do you
yeah,
see
yeah.
what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Um,
Good segue.
Thank you. So let's start out then with the bass of this tone. I mean, the bass guitar, not like
Yeah.
the bass of it. So what bass is being used here?
It's this one. It's the Yamaha Attitude Limited 3 that I've got on my in my lap. Yeah.
And that's the
str-
E-bass pickup, right?
yeah. No, it's the both pickups actually.
Oh,
Give me 1 second. I'll go to the very preset that you just heard. Hang on, 2 seconds. This is all live, kids.
I'm not cutting this out. This is going in.
This is going in. Oh, here it is. Here it is. All right. Found it. So we got the P pickup is going. It sounds like this, and the neck pickup sounds like this. Oh, it doesn't sound at all. Oh, I know why. Hang on.
These damn stereo basses. God.
Damn those pesky kids. That's the neck pickup for you.
Wow, that's
And-
so
and-
different.
And the P pickup was like this. And combined.
It's unreal. Combining those two pickups is so cool. And so there's obviously lots of complicated stuff going on here because you got two outputs on your bass,
Yeah.
and you're sending them to be split into separate channels then, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Like two different. You can do this on your Helix or HX Stomp or what have you. I've done this for like 6 years now. I think I'm still a disciple in this department, but it's a lot of fun. You can do this with like the Rickenbacker and all of those basses. But yeah, I digress once again. So the P pickup goes into a signal chain that features this preamp back there, the
Mhm.
Pierce BC1 preamp from the early 80s. This is a stock one. There's something called a Sheehan. I never pronounce his name right. Sorry, Billy. Mod, which gives you a lot more gain and quite a bit less bass, actually. There's something, yeah. So this one is stock. So I used one pedal, the Suncoast HD1 harmonic driver, uh, into that one to give it more distortion and goodness. And yeah, captured that using the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, set up a dual channel setup with that. And yeah, so it's running into two captures, one of the clean signal and one of the distorted one, some EQ, some compression, and then a 1x15 cap. And that's that for the P pickup. And then the woofer is actually, I'm going to turn the volume down a bit on the Quad Cortex because it's clipping almost here. So hang on. So the woofer is actually going through the Fender Bassman.
Hey.
Oh, how is that going? So it's a bit growly and almost distorting, on the verge of distorting, but it kind of works in like this context. It gives the tone a bit of body and warmth, if you will.
Yeah.
The Pierce is a bit, I wouldn't say sterile, but it's a lot of it's almost harsh. So combining these two gives you really a nice and growly tone.
Incredible, yeah. And that also means that you can just totally control the balance of which you're cutting through that mix. If it's
Exactly.
too growly, if it's too bassy, you're not removing any of the grit, but you're reducing the bass a little bit. You
Exactly.
can have complete control over what you're
Yeah.
doing. And there's actually a surprising amount of producers that will do this in separating and isolating two bass channels and having a
Yeah.
distorted high end signal and then just a really compressed low end signal to give you
Exactly.
like this solid sounding low end that mixes in really well with the kick, and then this high end that will help you punch through the mix.
Yeah.
It's such a great idea, and you've mastered it there, and with the stereo output, the pickups as well, because you could do it without that, because you could do it
Yeah. Exactly.
one and then split it, but having
Yeah.
this enables you to do it even more so because you've got those two different sounding pickups.
You can do this on the. You can actually run one pickup through both outputs. So just the P pickup through both would sound like this. And compare that to. I mean, I kind of like having the neck pickup because it's so clean and so almost boomy and
Mhm.
McCartney-esque. So it kind of um, it fits really nicely with this tone. I really I really enjoy using this type of setup
I'm
and whatnot.
really enjoying hearing it. Sounds
Thank you.
so good. It's inspiring me to want to do more stuff like that. I've got a line selector on my pedal board to kind of
Oh
do
yeah,
that kind of dual channel distortion type thing, but only on a very basic level where it's one amp and one pickup,
yeah.
and
I
one
mean,
pedal. But yeah, it sounds insane, mate. I absolutely love that. So what was I going to say about that? So this is obviously a lot to do with the Quad Cortex as well, and
yeah.
would you say it was quite an easy patch to put together this?
I mean, I've been doing this for so long now that I mean I kind of know where I'm going and what I'm going after.
Mhm.
So with that, it's kind of easy. I mean, for someone just starting out, it takes a while to know what you're doing and know how to cut different tones and whatnot. You don't want too much low end on the P tone that's supposed to be distorted, and you don't want too much trebly high end on the woofer, and So yeah, it takes a while. But for me, I mean, back in 2019, I was in Germany at what's it called? Guitar Summit, a trade show essentially, and they had the Helix there, and they had some. Well, Yamaha had a booth, and they had some Attitude basses. So I actually did mock-up Billy preset using that. And I mean, if you know what you're doing, it doesn't take too long. But I mean, it's taken me like 6 years to get to this. So I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the know-how, isn't it? Of like, oh, that's
yeah,
what some people do. That you can split a channel like that. Um, but using the Cortex itself, was that quite having that knowledge? Was it quite easy to dial in using the
yeah,
interface on there?
yeah. I mean, that's what I love about that unit. It's so easy to use, and like the touch screen and all of that. I
Mm,
mean, I've been part of the beta testing for quite a while now. I got my first unit, I think, back in 2020, like way back.
yeah.
And I mean, it took me like 5 minutes to get a good bass tone out of it, honestly,
Yeah,
because I mean,
that's one thing
it's
people say is that
yeah,
like even just like presets and like from the get go, you're like, this is perfect and
yeah,
sounding incredible. Whereas other units, line six, out the gate aren't great, but we can get
no,
there with tweaking.
yeah.
Um, but
I
yeah,
actually got to do a few factory presets for this one, actually. So yeah.
you just drop that one in there. Oh my god, that's
Oh yeah, so
awesome.
sorry.
That's so cool. Well, I can see why, because you're clearly, just so talented at
Thank you.
crafting tones
Oh
and just having that knowledge. And it's something that one day I wish I could, have the knowledge for. One last thing I want to ask about that
yeah.
tone. I mean, obviously, I'm hearing microphone stuff at the minute. Have you got much noise gate stuff going on? Because it sounds really tight and no noise whatsoever.
Well, not too excessive. Like noise gates is something that I find hard to dial in. Like in a studio setting, it's kind of easy, but when you're live, I find noise gates to be like my next Everest to climb, so to speak. Especially like in terms of like live tones and feedback and all of that. But
Mm,
let's see. Here's the P pickup. So I mean, it's dead quiet once I mute the strings, but it's not like clipping it off
yeah.
in terms of gating. So, but yeah,
Well,
there is
that's great because normally with that kind of matte distortion and on with no
yeah,
bass in there, you'd be expecting it to be quite noisy when you're not playing or if you've got your hands off the bass.
yeah.
But it sounds perfect.
Thank you.
Ugh, God damn it,
It's a sign.
Eric, with your perfect bass tones.
Perfect noise gates.
Boo, boo! I
Ooh.
say.
Oh,
And that's the end
I
of the
see.
podcast. Goodbye. No, but it is the end of this segment. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're inspiring me to experiment more and want to do more now. So yeah, thank you for that.
Distort more.
Okay, master.
More distortion.
Let's move on to our next segment. So, this question is what we like to call the big bass debate. So each week, I just choose one of the questions basically to be the main topic, or one that I think we could talk a bit more in depth about this one. So this one comes in from a username. I've lost it. Oh, Scotty Bones. That's who it is. Um,
Oh,
and they say, is it worth buying analog pedals anymore? Sorry, let me let me rephrase that. I've completely missed the start of it. Scotty Bones says, with processors like the Quad Cortex and Neural DSP and the Helix on the market, is there any worth anymore in buying analog pedals? Now, I thought this was a really interesting question. I've kind of touched on it a little bit before on this podcast, but I wanted to hear your perspective as well. Being a connoisseur of all of these
oh,
angles, like you
of the
said,
fine stuff.
exactly. So you're twiddling your mustache. Um,
This-
you've got Helix stuff, multiple. You've got the Quad Cortex, of course, as we discussed a lot, and you've
yeah,
also got a hell of a lot of pedals.
yeah,
Um, so you're clearly a lover of all, which I love
yeah.
that. And I'm sure you started out with pedals and have slowly moved into the more digital realm. Um, what inspired you to get more into the modeler and processor kind of realm?
It was actually the old A&R guy at Yamaha here in Sweden, called a guy called Lars, who's now like the head of Ampeg here in Europe or
Wow.
Sweden or so. Yeah, in Sweden. because I hit him up about me demoing some Yamaha basses, and he was like, "Yeah, sure. You want to try the Helix?" And that was the first time I got into like digital stuff. It's like, "Oh, I don't know about digital stuff." He was like, "Yeah, it's cool. All right, of course I can." And it kind of got me down the loophole, so to speak, or the rabbit hole is the word. And then like pretty much at the same time, I got in touch with Headbrush as well. So I demoed that one as well, and got into that. So I kind of slipped on a banana peel and went down the rabbit hole, and I haven't looked up since. So yeah, that's how I how I got started with digital stuff. I mean, I've known about digital like stuff on bass for or guitar for years. Like my old guitar player used to have like actually I had the old Zoom box, which
Oh,
was
nice.
terrible. It was terrible. It sounded like shit. It sounded like shit. Like the old one. I probably didn't know how to dial it in, so in their defense, it was the old plastic one. Um, but yeah, like that was my first experience, and I think it kind of colored me. I was like, oh no, I don't know about this digital stuff.
Mm.
Isn't basses supposed to sound be played through big old tubes? But yeah, I mean, there is a convenience to digital stuff that kind of appealed to me once I understood it.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is quite a big barrier to get over sometimes. It's people thinking, oh gosh, like I'm not going to be able to understand this. And which is why I was
yeah,
kind of interested in the user interface of the quad cortex, because it just sounds so easy to use. And I think that is just removes so many barriers in terms of accessibility, because that's what's stopping a lot of people from getting into it. I
yeah,
think when it's like, right, I got to double click this and do this and press this and do that,
yeah.
do this to make this.
Do I need to
Um,
hold a button for this?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I think that's great. And my experience is kind of, I'm a big lover of analog pedals, and I love twiddling on the go, a physical thing. And that's something that I've kind of realized over the last couple of years, having stepped into the digital realm with the HX Stomp. Um, I've relied on that for my amp sim, and I was going to use it live as well. Um, but then I found myself like getting in a bit of a muddle when trying to change things on the fly, or like
yeah,
spending too much time twiddling the
yeah,
naught point, zero point 0.2 treble and mids. I found myself really getting bogged down with it because it's done on this like um,
yeah.
scale of like points, to 10 to 0. I found myself
Exactly.
almost sometimes being like, right, where would, in terms of like a dial, where would this be? Like, what am I doing? It kind of sucked the creativity out of me a little bit, because I was getting so bogged down with trying to nail this tone, and then being annoyed with myself if I couldn't absolutely nail it, because this machine should be able to nail any tone. I've
Exactly.
got all this in my fingertips and I'm not enjoying it. There must be something wrong with me. And so it started to really get me down about playing anymore. So I'm in a bit of like a in and out with modelers and digital at the minute, which is why I want to try the Quad Cortex, because I hear nothing but fantastic things, and the presets are so good, that you can kind of jump in and just go from there, rather than having this steep learning curve,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That can be good because it makes you learn more, but um, I found since taking the HX Stomp off of my pedal board and moving back to an analog board and having all the knobs on there,
Yeah.
I found that limitation quite liberating almost after being
Exactly.
in the digital world, which is where I think analog still has its place, and it's still exciting to buy pedals and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your view on stomp boxes and pedals now?
I'm pretty much the same. I mean, my main like setup, it features some analog pedals,
Mm,
because the tactile response of a knob, you can't. It's hard to replace that. And I mean, I have pretty specialized, especially specialized preamp on my board that I kind of really enjoy. So I mean, there is that. However, like when I was using the HX Stomp mainly, I mean, I found myself going through the same like hassles as you. You sit for hours on end tweaking a tone, just turning knobs on your computer on or on the unit itself, and you're like, this is good, isn't it? And then you go back to it the day after, and you realize that you've suffered from ear fatigue,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
because dialing in a tone on a digital unit, I find like the best thing to do is like have a mix going, like of a song, and go from there. Start playing around and have that song going. And once you can hear yourself and you're like, okay, this is good enough, just stop. Don't sit there and like a bit more presence, maybe. Oh, I don't
Ooh.
know about the bias X. Maybe move.
Yeah.
Just stop and just go. Just play music.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's
and
honest that sings totally true with me, like,
yeah,
I think that's a great idea as well, that, like, don't worry about that, play and figure that bit out as you
yeah,
go, because you're
exactly.
ultimately stopping doing what you love, which is playing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one thing that I find with digital gear, especially the Helix line, and well, I guess the Quad Cortex and all of that, is that if you combine it with analog stuff, you get the best. You get the best sounds actually, because you get, you know, digital stuff. It's digital. It's emulating the things that you love about the analog world,
Mm.
and mixing them together is kind of like getting the both best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And like having if you have like the Helix line, if you run that into an analog compressor, for instance, you get pretty darn stellar tone. um and I think you should try that. Have your HX stump like pretty much like in the beginning of your signal chain, and run it into, say, a darkless pedal or something, just to give some life to that digital
Yeah.
madness.
Well,
I know,
that's
sorry about
exactly
my
what I do. So I have my analog pedal board on the floor, and then I run my bass into that, and then up into my HX Stomp, which then goes into my
oh,
computer. So I just use the HX Stomp for like my main amp sim, for when I'm recording, and
okay,
guitars as
yeah,
well. But then I've got all the effects on my board with the dark glass, and that's why I'll use the tuner on there as well for some reason.
yeah,
Um, and the compressor as well, because I've got the Origin Effects Cali 76,
oh,
the compact one.
yeah,
I haven't got
yeah.
enough room for the big one or money.
Oh, I've been drooling over that. I saw it was like, yeah, it's too expensive, but it looks so damn good. It looks so
Well,
good.
now there's new colors, mate. You might have to
Oh,
bring those
yeah, yep,
panties
yep.
out. Um,
uh, you know, you know what you should try? Take the compressor and put it last. Put it after the HX sump. Try that. Yes, because I'm a huge advocate for putting the compressor pretty much last in the signal chain.
really?
Um, yeah, and some people are like, yeah, you're just compressing the noise as well. But yeah, but I mean that's what people do in the studio. They have a compressor. Like every time you record something and send it, like, yeah, put some compression on. Okay, there's enough compression there to like squeeze 5 cats into that tone. But okay, so try and run the Helix stuff into an analog compressor. I think you would enjoy that very much,
Yeah,
actually.
that's very true. Because when you're adding like some kind of like compressor plug-in on something, it's just going on the
Yeah,
channel
yeah,
after the tone's been recorded,
exactly.
as opposed to going and putting it in the chain somehow. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, yeah, great advice, and
yeah.
I'm
I
even more
mean,
inspired.
I mean that's it's come from years of trial and error with the with that line, and other people doing the same thing. Like, try this, try adding that
Yeah,
afterwards, and
I try.
bringing life to yeah,
Absolutely. I often try to think of it as like trying to emulate what I'm doing in a live situation. So then I know that
exactly.
like I've got this set up, this and translate to my live
Yeah,
rig, things like that. Um, yeah, amazing. I love that. So I touched on it a little bit earlier about the kind of prices that you're paying, and when you've got like the world as your oyster and you've got everything
yeah.
you need, is it actually that much money? No. Like,
No,
if I look at my pedal board now, like that pedal's £300, that pedal's £200,
yeah,
for like one thing that they do. They do those things very well, but like really looking at financial way, it's actually a lot cheaper. And
yeah,
like there's almost like no downfall to going down the digital route. Naysayers will say, I can tell the difference. I know this. I
yeah. I
no,
know. I mean,
I don't
I'm
know.
calling bullshit on that
Yeah,
now.
I would say so too, just because especially live, like,
Yeah, yeah,
really?
yeah,
Are you
exactly. And or
joking?
like like if you got an isolated bass track, and like in a demo, like you're sitting doing a YouTube demo, it's like, here's the new I don't know unit from so and so. Oh, there's my wife. Sorry. Like, here's the new unit from so and so. Everyone's like, oh, I hear it's digital. I can hear it. I can tell it's digital. And like when you hear the name mix, and like, yeah, I used the Helix on this. No one will be able to tell.
No, it's only if they
based on
know.
yeah,
They'll like start
yeah,
taking it apart with their ears and be like, yeah, so, well, I can tell that that's not a tube. I
it's
think
the same
there's
with plugins.
more to be said with like guitars and that.
Yeah,
I feel like I can hear a bit of a difference, but not enough to be like, oh my god,
no.
like no way, shoot that. It sounds insane, but
Yeah,
with
and I mean,
especially with
like,
bass, it's even less so. I think you can hear that difference.
yeah, and I mean, like all of the plugins, like I like only use plugins when I mix. I don't use any outboard gear. No one has complained on my mixes or anything like it. Sounds great. Yep, plugins all the way.
Yeah, exactly. And there'll be tracks out there that people are like, I love the drum tones on this, and you're like, yep, that's just Nolly get good drums.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and people, if they don't know, they won't know, kind of thing.
No, exactly.
But yeah, incredible. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're making this a very expensive podcast because now I feel like I'm gonna have to go out and buy all these things, and I want to experiment with it all.
Sorry about that.
Hey, no, sorry, not sorry, you should be saying, because it'll be a relief and such joy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I can get my hands on one day. We'll see. We shall see. Watch this space. Erik, it's been a fantastic time having you on. Thank you so much for us finally being able to put this together.
Yeah. Great, like finally getting to like chat with you like properly, like in person.
Yes.
Across the great pond.
Exactly. What are you talking about? I'm there right next to you in Sweden. Hello.
Oh! I should have cleaned my room. Sorry about that.
That's right. It's a bloody state. Yeah, it's been an amazing time, and I hope you'll come back one day. I'm sure with plenty more to talk about, and
Yeah,
no doubt we'll speak again very soon.
I hope so too.
Where can everybody find you? What are you doing? Where do you want peeps to go and follow you?
Peeps can go and follow me on Instagram. I'm at Erik Arko on bass, and on the YouTubes, I'm Erik Arko, and yeah, that's about it. YouTube and Instagram is where I'm mostly at. I'm on Facebook as well, so just look for Erik Arko, or it's actually, but look for Erik Arko and you'll find me.
Incredible.
And if you need me, call out my name and I'll be there with tasteless licks all throughout the night.
If you could show the symbol in the sky, he'll be there. We'll summon him. Amazing. Thank you so much. Guys, if you want to hear more from Erik or from this conversation or future conversations, future guests, future topics, leave them in a comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, leave a review and let us know if it's really rubbish. I don't care. I've got thick skin. Tell me. No, only just leave a 5-star review. Come on, go on. Wherever you're listening to us. Make sure you're subscribing and liking, all that jazz. Follow me on Instagram at Jonny Dibble, where you guys can get involved with this podcast and submit your questions all over there. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.